Welcome to the world of global payments and the big issues shaping this industry. You're listening to Commonwealth Bank's Global Payments Series with me, Carli Renzi, Managing Director of Institutional Client Coverage at CBA. We live in a world of instant communication and real-time access. For years, we've heard complaints about the traditional experience of sending money overseas. It was expensive, slow, and rather opaque about when the funds arrived. Last year, CBA introduced NPP IPS, designed to process the domestic leg of inbound international payments in near real time. This year, we're seeing a reinvigorated wave of debate on what the future global payments could look like and what roles banks can play. To look into the future, I'm joined by Ethan Tees, Executive General Manager for Payments at CBA. Welcome, Ethan.
Thanks for having me, Carli. It's so good to see you again.
So let's talk a little bit about international cross-border. How much have you seen it change over the last couple of years?
Well, I mean, there's been, if you widen the horizon to the past 10 years, there's been big changes in cross-border. I mean, you could go way back and talk about cash and whether you prefer a briefcase or to put it in your belt. But I think with electronic payments for consumers, there's already been a big change. And I still see those FX kiosks at the airport, and I do wonder who uses them. The people look awfully lonely. So if we think about cross-border electronic payments, the big change in the recent years has been the rise of the closed-loop players. This is your Wise, your Wallix, these sort of players that are moving money in a closed-loop format. And then in the traditional business, there's been an incredible pressure on the customer experience. And so the customer experience is really about the transparency, the speed, and the cost. You see that encapsulated in the G20 goals. And that's kind of balanced by the geopolitical climate, really kind of ratcheting up, but also increased focus on safety. We have more information in our payments messages than ever, and we've got to continue to combat financial crime.
So, Ethan, you spoke a little bit about the closed-loop providers, some of those fintechs. I guess a question, and it perhaps links back to the financial crime piece, but also to other options, would be regulatory collaboration and interlinking between real-time infrastructures in different countries.
It's a great question. And when you look at it, you can almost think about cross-border into four categories today. So we've got the correspondent banking model, and that's really the model that we've been using since the 1970s. You've got the closed loop, which I just spoke about, where effectively the cross-border elements of the transaction are curated by one company, and then they'll off-ramp into the kind of local financial system after dealing with the cross-border aspects. The third one that we're starting to see now is interlinking. And what we're seeing there is the opportunity of the modernization of domestic payments systems and the desire to kind of connect those. So we see really experiments and also some early work on that. But it's a different business model in addition to a different technology model. And then finally, stablecoin. I don't think you could be walking around in this business and not be talking about stablecoin. And that's where we have a lot of questions. Some of those are becoming more clear as regulation starts to take form. But there's still, I think, very big open questions around stablecoin and what role that's going to play in cross-border payments in the future.
And presumably all of these options have different customer experience outcomes. Could you talk a little bit about how you're using CBA's investment to really hone in on that customer experience and the bets that you're placing around real-time payments evolution?
Yeah, 100%. And here in Australia, we're really lucky. We have the NPP, which is a real-time rail. For those of you listening that don't know about the NPP, it is unique. And it's unique in a few aspects. One, it is on the ISO 222 standard. And that means that we have interoperability with the cross-border standard that's out there already, the CBPR+. Number two, the rail's unlimited. So that means it can cater to both like retail and commercial and even wholesale use cases. And so that's very unique. And then the third thing is we have now what we call the IPS, which is a service where we can land a cross-border payment on the NPP that otherwise would land in like our RTGS system. And so what's CBA doing? On the inward, we're leveraging that, right? So we're helping our clearing clients to get real-time speeds by using IPS. And so that means when you land money into Australia, we can clear AUD across the market in near real time. And I think that's really exciting because that means that we're helping customers all around the globe to get money into Australia faster. The second thing we've done, cross-border payments, it's really been built around banking hours, and we're bringing that to 24/7. A few years ago, we would have been, 12 by 5, so 12 hours a day by 5 days a week. And that's now at 24/7 for AUD clearing. And then for cross-currency, we also are going on that same journey. And so right now we're at 20 hours by 5 days a week, and we'll be at 24 by 5.5, which is really when the FX markets are open around the world. And we'll be even covering that gap for our clients. When the FX market is closed, how can we price for that risk and help them move money whenever they want to? And the third thing we've done is really focused on our processes and how we maintain safety, but also drive speed into the process. And so if you look at a payment, what slows it down? There are two things, really. You have errors in the payment message formatting, and we do repairs, right? And in that, we have people that do those repairs, but we also have automation, including using AI. And the second thing is sanction screening, where we have a really important task to make sure that the payment flow that we support is safe and that we're not violating any sanctions obligations for the bank, but also to keep the system safe. This is an area of intense focus for us. How do we keep the bar as high as it is, which is zero tolerance on sanctions risk, but also move faster? And so again, automation, technology, and AI play a role in that. Big investments for us.
Thanks, Ethan. AI has been a really important feature for CBA, and at our results, we announced the partnership with OpenAI. Could you double-click a bit on where AI is used in payments and where you see Gen AI working through in the real-time payments landscape going forward?
Yeah, it's an excellent privilege to work at CBA because the bank is a leader in AI, both in the use and in ethical AI. I think we've been well recognized for that. And it is coming into everything that we do. So maybe I'll double click first on the speed of payments, and then I can talk a little bit about how else we're using AI. And it's not limited to one partnership. The first thing is on speed. We're already using AI, right? So in our sanctions screening, we have AI. Then I think the bigger unlock for us is how we do AI-powered engineering. And what that means is, in my team, I have 500 some engineers, and they're working on both ensuring that we can keep everything working as it is in payments, and then they're working on tech modernization, and then they're working on improving our experience for our customers, right? And so with AI-powered engineering, we can drive more productivity, and we can drive faster speed to market across everything we do in payments. That has two big benefits. One is we can do more with the same amount of resource, which means that we'll get more to our clients. The second is, and this is maybe a little bit interesting and wasn't clear to me immediately, is we can release more frequently. And we can get feedback loops to speed up tremendously. And then we can use AI as well to read into what the client feedback is so that we can design better. Right? So we're not just getting productivity out of it, we're also getting better design and better outcomes for our customers.
That customer feedback loop and the data set that we have around our customers obviously gives us a strategic advantage here in Australia as Australia's largest bank. How do you see us collaborating with other partners around the world to bring that insight or that local insight to ensure a real strong customer experience on that international cross-border payments?
Yeah, so with regards to how we share, really, right, this data advantage, there's a couple areas where we can share it. First of all, we've got to be incredibly careful about how we use this data, both in terms of use cases and in terms of our customers' consent, how we work with the end customers who are really kind of providing this data as they work with us. On the first matter, we have great data, and it comes from everywhere. So we have data in the payment messages, we have data from our aggregate experience in the market, and then we have data from our customers talking to us, right? Now, we've always had the advantage in looking at the data in the payment messages, and we can use that for fraud and security use cases. So, for example, our name check API, which we've brought out to the market, including cross-border, means that people can land safer payments into Australia. And we also support local banks here to make safer payments for their customers. We'll continue to do that. The next frontier is really looking at some of the more unstructured data. We'll get more of that in the payment message as ISO comes through. We'll have bigger payment messages, bigger data payload, and there's going to be more insight there that we can help. But we also have insight from our customers talking with us. And this is where AI is, I think, critically important, is how do we bring all of the collective conversations we have with our customers, where they might be giving us feedback and complaints, they might give us feedback, just in the wild, so to speak, and they give us feedback as well through our conversations with them. Bringing that together and pulling insights out of that, was a very manual piece of work a couple of years ago. Now with Gen AI and the LLMs, we can actually bring those insights out in a conversational way. So even our engineers can use it, but we can also use it as we talk to our global partners around the world and compare notes on what we're seeing, what we're hearing from customers, and how that might help them improve their service in their local market, but also in our collective cross-border activity.
Have there been any unexpected learnings in the last 12 months as you've looked to implement, for example, 24/5 FX, or as you've invested in AI for engineering and speed and that customer intelligence?
There's plenty of learnings, and I think many of them are unexpected. That's the beautiful thing about a learning. And one of the big learnings has been, when I look at payments, it's incredibly horizontal. And so we have got to partner with everybody inside of the bank. Our partnership model with some of the areas of the bank was such that, we weren't exposing areas of mutual benefit, I think, sufficiently quickly. And so what we've done is we've looked at new ways of working together across payments, global markets, and other areas. And that's been benefited not only, which I think is the surprising part, by our desire to do better for our customers and our business, but also the regulatory environment. Here in Australia, we have a thing called CPS 230, and that's really taken us on a journey where we've had more collaboration across divisions in order to make sure that we've got the right outcomes for resilience. There have been huge benefits for the business as well.
Resiliency has been a big theme, not just in Australia, but globally. Have there been any new requests that have been coming through from some of our correspondent banking partners, or some trends that you're seeing around how other banks are looking at resiliency and contingency, and how are you adapting to that?
Well, it's certainly a theme in our conversations. I think as the regs start to embed in the various jurisdictions, we'll start to see this come more into the cross-border environment, right? Today, if you look at the UK, who's a bit ahead of Australia, there'll certainly be inquiries. We will take those on, and I think that we'll have the same challenges that we have in every part of cross-border payments, which is jurisdictional mismatch. How do we do it efficiently? Because I think the spirit of every regulator is the same around resilience, but the technical rules are going to be different and the requirements will be different. So how do we clear those efficiently? And the good news is I think the regulators around the world do have a dialogue. They're very aware of the benefits of harmonization in regulation. And I think that we're going to be able to pull through this in a very positive way. We just got to keep the dialogue open.
One of the things I've really enjoyed about working with yourself, Ethan, but also Susan and the broader team in our products capability space, is the amount of engagement that you have with the regulators and the industry bodies to really understand what's happening on the ground here in Australia. I'd like to just deep dive a little bit into interlinking, which was something you talked about in terms of the new payments rails that are coming through and emerging. Could you talk a little bit about how you're viewing that and where you see the advantages and opportunities?
Yeah, when I think about interlinking, I think it's one of the models and one of the tools in the bag that we can use in order to achieve the same outcomes, which are common for our customers and also for the banking sector. So if you think about it, with interlinking, what you have is you have two payment systems that are talking to each other. It's not a big technical task, right? Because as long as the messaging format is common, it's really about connectivity. But where the challenges come in are around FX, liquidity, and also on compliance. So those are the three problems you need to solve. If you think about interlinking on one hand, those problems have to be solved centrally and in a standardized way, and either by a multilateral or bilateral agreement, basically. And the alternative model is using the traditional correspondent banking model, but having real-time payment systems on both sides of the transaction. And that's really kind of traditional correspondent banking, but it's doing it in a much faster format with the benefits of real-time on both ends. What's nice about that is that you have a market-led solution where effectively the banks compete or seek to drive the best possible outcomes while they plug into the systems. So in Australia, we've got the IPS service, which is effectively a one-leg-out service. And what that means is that, clearers overseas can send money into Australia and benefit from real-time working with their bank partner. In the case of interlinking, really the payment systems are interlinked, and then you have liquidity provision, FX provision, and there's many, many models for this, as well as having to solve some of the compliance problems that come with it. The BIS is doing good work on this. I think both are incredibly viable, and I'm looking forward to continuing to innovate in the correspondent banking model, but also participate in interlinking if and when it comes to Australia.
Okay, Ethan, we're moving on to the rapid fire questions now. First of all, what keeps you up at night?
Well, at home, it's my older son. And with regards to work, it's always risk.
If you could snap your fingers and change something, what would it be?
for cross-border, definitely the jurisdictional harmonization of rules. This could really unlock faster growth.
Okay, lastly, is banking going to be recognizable in the next 5 years?
It's certainly going to be recognizable, but it's going to be more different in 5 years than it was from 5 years ago to now.
Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate your insights today. You've been hearing from Ethan Tees, Executive General Manager for Payments at CBA. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Carli, and thanks everybody out there.
Tune in again to hear more insights from CBA's experts on the world of global payments and moments that matter for our clients.
Things you should know. Guests featured in this podcast are speaking from their personal experiences only. As this podcast has been prepared without considering your objectives, financial situation, or needs, you should, before acting on the content, consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. CommBank does not necessarily endorse the views of a particular individual or guarantee the accuracy of the information provided.